FMR 101.3.
And of course, that was Freshly Ground with Ma Chérie. Takes us back to school days, so my guest in the studio tells me. So, anyone who's visited the Karoo can appreciate the sounds of the silence of this magnificent part of the country. Timeless Whispers is a choral celebration inspired by the landscapes and vibrancy of the Karoo, and it's wonderful to have John Woodland in the studio to give us some insight. And I felt that there was a connection between what Gareth was talking about in the overtones and what you're going to talk about with this choral presentation.
Thank you,
so
Beryl.
First of all, let's sort of tell the audience about VOX and what their mission is.
Right, thanks very much. Yes, VOX is a choir, and we are about 30 singers, and we try to do things a little bit differently. I think our core sort of goal or vision is to create these immersive, imaginative musical experiences where we bring together perhaps quite unusual, maybe contemporary, maybe blending older styles, newer styles together, but really creating a feast for all the senses. So not just the sound, but the lighting as well, the decor, the atmosphere, maybe even the sense of smell will be invoked. You can imagine the kinds of smells in the Karoo that we are now trying to create in our performance venue. Exactly. And tastes as well. And we at
Karoo
our performances, yes, perhaps not, maybe for
Maybe
a
not.
future performance, but this time round, for example, we have two performances that we'll chat about, but after the first one, serving moor coffee and rusks, but after the evening performance, muscadel, because that's all part of the Karoo.
The experience.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. And this is the fifth in the series of these immersive concerts.
Yes, exactly. So we've explored music from Scandinavia and a voyage to the Northern Lights. We've juxtaposed sort of classical and contemporary styles, and just 2 months ago had a concert all around Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky, what we called Eternal Echoes. And in a way, this is intended, this next concert, to complement and contrast that, where that was kind of an outward-looking celebration of well-known choral music. This is in some ways maybe a harder sell because it's music that's less well-known. In fact, much of it is new and will be heard for the very first time. But importantly, it's all South African. It's going to be an all South African celebration of language, our heritage here, and celebrating our composers, our young musicians, our singers as well. And that's really what we hope to bring together in this performance.
What inspired this? What started you on this particular journey of the Karoo? I mean, there seems to have been recently quite a lot of exposure of the Karoo, whether it has been in literary fiction or music or whatever. Tell us
And
where
I wonder
it started.
if that's something to do maybe with also emerging from the pandemic and this desire from a break from the hustle and bustle of life. And we're lucky to have the Karoo on, in some ways, our figurative doorstep. But really the genesis for this concert was way back in 2019. One of our singers, Karen Hahn, approached us, and she'd been to an exhibition by an artist in Carlitsdorp, Derek McKenzie, and she was enchanted by this work of his, this photograph of his she'd seen, of a poem scratched into the walls of a dilapidated Karoo homestead, beginning with the words "Akka slape, Lewis, I can't sleep." And she approached us and said, wouldn't it be special to set this to music? And so we thought about that. We identified Hans Hussen, who's a local, very perceptive and sensitive composer, and he took this poem from this photograph, as well as other Afrikaans poetry by C. Louis Leipold, VOX, and wrote a cycle of 4 works. And we actually envisaged putting on something like this concert in 2020. Of course, it's been delayed.
Things got moved,
Not entirely bad, because it helped us really to come up with a much more holistic vision for this program. So we started putting together other music that we thought inhabited a similar yet different sound world. Music by Peter Louis van Dijk, celebrating his 70th birthday this year. His Horizons, his Song Gloria, both of which are very vibrant and spirited works, reflecting on the history of earlier peoples in the Karoo. We've commissioned a new work for this concert by Denise Onen, a young, very exciting Cape Town-based composer. She's actually sadly missing the concert. She's in Berlin for a 2-month residency, but she decided to write her own words, and there's a beautiful a part in her music where she talks and draws this analogy between the all the grains of sand in the Karoo sort of mirroring the numberless stars in the sky. And so that's sort of wash of this ethereality and these soundscapes.
Spiritual.
Absolutely.
Very spiritual.
And then
the Karoo is spiritual.
Exactly. Yeah. But the Karoo is all of these things. It's vibrant, it's earthy, it's gritty, but ethereal at the same time. And it's not just choral music, there's also some instrumental music. The first performance of a work by Jan Hendrik Harley, Karoo Polfeentjies. Polfeentjie being, I believe, an archaic Afrikaans word for a souvenir or a memento, for 2 cellos, flutes and drums. And so that'll provide some very nice contrast to the choral music. And then importantly, with all our singers, we have young instrumentalists joining us for that music. Names who might be familiar to listeners, people like Ashton Grobelaar, Chris Nyapa, Catherine Stevenson, who often ad hoc for the CPO. Mikhail Adams will be playing the organ for us. And so it really is going to be this full-on celebration.
I feel your passion.
It's yes. very exciting to see it all come together. There may or may not be a 3-meter Karoo windmill in the venue that we'll be installing. Plants, as I mentioned, the scent, the tastes as well. All of this coming together.
To create the ambience. Yeah,
exactly. Everything. An immersive, holistic experience.
You're giving a pre-concert talk as well. But what I was also very interested in is that you're going to be celebrating Leslie Beek's new children's book, The Time Trackers, which I know the proceeds are going to the Children's Book Network. Tell us a little bit about that. We haven't got a lot of time, but I want to hear about that because Leslie used to present for Book Review
Choice.
As well.
That's right, yes. We've wanted to work with her and her Children's Book Network for a long time because they do such amazing work.
They do.
And as some listeners will know, I'm also a scientist, and this book is also about archaeology in the Karoo and drawing links from our
That's
past
her baby.
to the present
She
and the
loves
future.
It. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it seemed very appropriate to draw her and her book, which is the first children's book based on archaeology in the Karoo that was published just 2 months ago. She'll be joining us after the morning performance for a chat to talk about her book, and all the, as you mentioned, the proceeds will then go to supporting the work that they do. But we thought, again, sort of creating this whole experience, it would be very appropriate to draw her and her work into this.
Totally. And I think the venue that you've chosen, St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, I mean, also adds to that whole ambience.
Absolutely. Beautiful acoustic, wonderful organ, quite a neutral space in a way. It doesn't necessarily feel like you're inside a church, and the church are very supportive of our work. They allow us to decorate the place and really kind of turn it into the Karoo for that whole day that we'll be there.
Well, 2 performances only. Do not do lastminute.com, please, Cape Townians. At 11 o'clock in the morning and 8 p.m. at night. It's at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Devatekant, and bookings via Quicket. And it's on the 14th of October, so you have a week.
And we hope that it's a bit of an experiment trying these 2 performances, because I'm quite excited as a performer to see what the light and the time of day, how that changes the experience of this production that we put together. The morning and then the evening as well. So the morning being in some ways more of a sort of a rousing kind of time and performance, exactly. But the evening is going to somehow have a much more sort of reflective, maybe end of day celebratory aspect to it. So it's also John, a bit of an experiment.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. It's very exciting. It's very, very different. And I wish you break a leg. I think that's the most important.
Thank you, Beryl.
Thanks so much.
FMR 101.3